everybody, welcome back to another Craft Break Live. My name is Emma Panuski, and today we are going to be painting rainbow Easter eggs using apple barrel acrylic paint. So throughout our live stream today, I'm going to be giving you guys tips and tricks on some different tips that you can use whenever you're painting Easter eggs at home this season. And I'll also kind of give you some tips and tricks, just good things to know whenever you're designing a rainbow project grouping. So Caitlin is in the studio with us today, so if you have any questions or any comments about anything that we're talking about during the live stream, make sure to comment down below. Let us know where you're tuning in from, if it's as cold in your area as it is in ours, all of that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, we're going to be painting with apple barrel acrylic paint today, and I thought it'd be a really fun idea to incorporate a full rainbow spectrum. I just think it's really bright and cheery. It's perfect for the spring season, and throughout our process today, I'll be giving you some tips on the best ways to incorporate a rainbow color palette into your decor for the spring season. So I already went ahead and we painted some Easter eggs that are kind of rainbow. Today we'll be kind of fleshing out the rainbow spectrum. So I'll show you guys these. We have this really cute polka dot pattern, some stripes, little botanical designs, just really cute spring themes. So one of the things that I will say whenever you're thinking about designing or decorating with a rainbow palette, if you want to include the full colors of the rainbow, then a really great thing that I like to bring into all of my rainbow designs is a really solid monochromatic color palette. So what I mean by that is, if we're going to be incorporating so many different colors of the rainbow, sometimes it can get a little hard on the eye. So a really great way to tone that down is by matching yellows with yellows, greens with greens, oranges with oranges, and so on when you're thinking about each individual design piece. See how this orange Easter egg, we kind of swapped the two colors and we chose two really similar colors on the color spectrum. So a coral and an orange, they're right next to each other, so your eye doesn't have to work so hard when you're enjoying your design choices. Same with this here, we have a darker green and a lighter green. And another thing that I really like to play with whenever I'm decorating with rainbow colors is the contrast of warm and cool colors. So you can see this darker green is a little bit warmer. It has kind of an olivey hue to it. And our lighter green is really, really cool. So I kind of like playing with the contrast between those two because without it becoming too busy, it still gives a really interesting look to all of your design choices. So we'll be playing with a little bit of that today. I already went ahead and I base coated some Easter eggs so that we can start to play with them. If you're crafting Easter eggs at home, you can just, usually Amazon, Walmart will have blank plastic Easter eggs that are ready to be crafted on. So that's what we chose to use for our Easter eggs today. I'm also going to be using our Folk Art Detail brush set. These are all of the brushes that you can find in there. It's just really all of the basics that you will want to have for painting tiny details in all of your paintings. I love this set of brushes. It comes with some liners, some rounds, and then you can see too some small flat brushes. It's really everything that you need to paint really ornate designs like the ones on our eggs. But before we start getting into the fun part, start painting, I wanted to show you guys a really great tip that we use in the studio just when we're painting a lot of Easter eggs. We also use this tip whenever we're painting ornaments. If you've ever painted on one of those two surfaces before, then you know if you're waiting for it to dry, if you set it down, it's just going to roll on the table and then you make a mess. Your design is ruined if they're not totally dry. So ideally, you want your 3D object to be upright. what I have here is just a little scrap piece of styrofoam that I got in a cardboard package. Usually if you buy like glassware or something fragile, you'll get some styrofoam pieces like this. This also works really well with something like floral foam. I mean, anything really that you have on hand that you can stick a sharp object through. So I have my styrofoam, and I also have some toothpicks. So these are really just two household objects that you probably do have at home, or if not, you can find them really inexpensively and really quickly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stick my toothpicks pretty close together, just enough to where they're pretty stable in my foam. Kind of thinking about how big our Easter eggs are. So let's see if this will work. Perfect. So once we're painting our designs on our Easter egg, we can put them in our little drying rack that we constructed, and it's really easy. You don't have to worry about your design being ruined or having to take a blow dryer and having to blow dry each one before you can set it somewhere safely. So I'm just going to make 3 little spaces for those. I always like to have like 3 pinpoints because it just feels the most stable for any round object. And I just make one of these before I start painting, and that way we're ready to go. So we have our drying rack here. I'll actually run through the colors that we chose for our eggs today. So if you didn't already know, Apple Barrel Paint has a really wide variety of colors to choose from. So that's what we're painting with today, the lovely Apple Barrel acrylic paint. This purple one is our lavender sachet color, one of my favorite Apple Barrel colors actually. Pink polish, a really pretty pink. And lastly, cloudless, a really classic kind of light aqua color. And Apple Barrel Paint is a really wonderful family-friendly paint. It's water-based, it's non-toxic, super easy cleanup, made right here in the USA, and it dries to a really beautiful matte finish, which I think looks so beautiful on Easter eggs. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's start with the blue one. So to contrast this cloudless blue, I'm going to be using Cool Blue, which is a little bit of a different blue, you can tell. This one is obviously lighter and a little bit more on the aqua side of things, and this one is a little bit more true to a primary blue. So I think the contrast between these two tones goes really well together. Set some of my Cool Blue on my palette there. And then we're going to use one of our detail brushes. So whenever I'm painting small details like this, if you're not the most confident painter, you don't really have to worry about that. What we're kind of going to be talking about today is sometimes you can really just let the brushes do the work for you. So I'm going to start and just paint little tick marks going all down our egg. And we really are letting the brush do all of the work for us. I'm just painting the tick marks as wide as the width of our brush bristles. And I'm kind of staggering them, so I don't want them to be in a row. I'm leaving some space in between. I'm making sure that some fall in the middle. But they're all, as you can see, kind of going in the same direction. This would be a really, really fun crafting day with some girlfriends. Really fun thing to do with grandkids, with your kids. It's great for people of really all ages and all genders to craft some eggs with. This is one of those fun projects where you can really let your creativity run wild. We have some really great Apple Barrel paint kits on Walmart.com, PlaidOnline.com, Amazon. you can pick up one of those kits and then you're kind of rest assured that you have a really cohesive color palette, so you don't really have to worry about the design elements and have to predict what everybody's going to want to paint with, because you really have all of the colors accounted for. Sometimes I host little craft parties with some of my friends, and of course I always have a craft in mind, but I found that the most successful ones are where the craft is kind of left up to the people involved. Like, you don't want to be too specific about what everybody's going to want to paint or create that night. You just kind of provide the supplies, some Easter eggs, some brushes, some paint, and then let your guests decide what they want to create. I feel like that's when everybody has the most fun. So we're just going around the whole exterior of our egg, just creating that seamless pattern. And the fun thing too is that when you kind of get in the groove of the pattern that you're creating, it becomes very mindless and everybody gets to relax and chat and share. We're almost done. In the last moments, you just want to make sure that there are no empty spots, that you have a design on all the parts of your egg. Super simple and easy. So I'm going to rinse my brush, and I'm going to stick my egg back on its holder. Perfect. And I'm going to go for another egg. So I'm going to be painting now on our polish pink, or our pink polish, and I'm going to be using Pink Parfait. So this one is more of a reddish pink, and this is kind of more of a neon hot pink. So I think the contrast of those two colors will look really nice together. And I think for this one, I'm going to do some stripes. So whenever I'm doing stripes on a 3D object like this, I like to have, if you're using your left and your right hand, I like to have at least one of these hands in a fixed position and move the other object. So either your egg stays still or your brush stays still. And I'm going to have my brush stay still for this one. So thinking about painting pretty even stripes, I like to start in the middle and work my way up and down. Just really, when I do that, I get to account for the spacing of my design. So like I said, I'm going to hold my brush still, and I'm going to move my egg. So my brush isn't going up or down, it's just staying still, and I'm just rotating my egg as I go. Going back, smoothing out some of those lines. And then you have that really seamless transition of your stripe. So once you have that initial stripe down, it becomes a little bit easier, because instead of having to have one of your hands in a fixed position, you just want to make sure now that you have an equal amount of space between the line that you're creating and the previous line that you just created. So that's about a ½ inch apart. I just want to make sure that I follow that, so that when my line meets the other end that we started with, we're in the same spot. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're really not very confident in your painting skills, but you love to paint and you love to just have fun with it, then it's also a good idea to consider, instead of, before you pick up your paintbrush, to grab a pencil and just kind of sketch out some of your designs right on your Easter egg before you pick up your brush. That way you can go back and erase things that you don't want on your egg. But another great thing about apple barrel paint is that it dries pretty quickly. So you can always go back and paint over your designs that you weren't happy with. Plus, I feel like Easter eggs are kind of one of those things, just like Christmas ornaments, you're usually painting a lot of them. So even if it's not the most perfect design in the world, because you're creating so many of them, when you're finally at the end and you have all of your eggs together, they just look so pretty together. No matter how clean the design is, just the burst of all of those different colors living together is really what brings this kind of project to life. See those two colors together? Isn't that pretty? Kind of like a purpley pink and a more true reddish pink. I love that. Okay, so that's our second egg. You can add a couple more stripes if you like, but I kind of like that. It's almost like a bowling stripe.
Do you think that you can show Jill the blue one because she missed it?
Yeah, of course. Here's our blue one. It's already pretty dry. We just used our small little flat brush and we let the brush do the work for us and created these tick marks just in a seamless pattern all over the egg.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, one last one. This is a really great beginner-friendly technique. So this is our lavender sachet, a really beautiful pastel purple, and we're gonna pair it with our grape jam. I'm not really sure why, but if I had to list like my 3 favorite apple barrel colors of all time, grape jam will always be a part of it. It's such a really pretty kind of pinkish purple color. I just think it's so fun. It makes me so happy. Okay, so for this technique, you can really use any brush that you want because instead of using the bristles of the brush, I'm actually going to be using the back side of the brush. I'm going to take the back side of my brush, dip it directly into my paint so it looks something like that, and I am going to dot it onto my egg. So the first dot that I do, you can see I'm kind of swirling the back end of my brush a little bit because the more that we swirl, the bigger our dot is going to be. So our first dot I swirled a little bit, and then keeping within that monochromatic style that we've been working with, I'm going to dip the end of my brush into my paint, and I'm not going to swirl, I'm just going to dot down, going all around that initial dot. And we kind of have like a little flower. Gonna pick a new spot on my egg, do the same thing, give it a good little swirl with the back of my brush to make the center. And then again, dot, dot.
And these are just normal plastic eggs, right?
Right, these are just normal plastic eggs. Isn't that fun? This is also honestly a great technique if you are a dog parent or a cat parent. You can make cute little paw prints using this technique too. Have the main pad of the paw as the inner circle, and then have the smaller circles as the little, what's that part of the paw?
the little
the
toes.
Fingers and toes, yeah. But yeah, that would also lend really well to that kind of design. So yeah, in summation, my advice for you whenever you're painting Easter eggs is just have fun with it, because when you're at the end and you've painted all of your eggs, just seeing them together and the color palette that you chose is really the reward, getting to see them all together in the end. I personally love picking a rainbow palette for a grouping of Easter eggs. I think it's so fun and so fresh. And of course, it lasts year after year after year. But really just have fun with it. We have a lot of great Apple Braille kits for you to pick up on plaidonline.com. Again, this folk art detail brush set is also available on plaidonline.com. Really great for painting Easter eggs. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in with us today, and we will see